Indian Contract Act 1872, Introduction, Scope, Objectives, and Essential Elements. Hello and welcome. Have you ever wondered how contracts work, what makes an agreement legally binding, or how businesses and individuals protect their rights? Today, we'll break down the Indian Contract Act 1872, its meaning, scope, objectives, and the essential elements of a valid contract, with real-life examples. Stay tuned till the end for a special tip on avoiding contract mistakes. Let's get started. Introduction to the Indian Contract Act 1872. The Indian Contract Act 1872 is one of the most important laws in India that governs contracts. It was enacted on 25th April 1872 and came into effect on 1st September 1872. It defines the rules for making and enforcing agreements, ensuring fairness in business and personal dealings. The Act originally had two parts: general principles of contract law and special contracts like indemnity, guarantee, bailment, pledge, and agency. Today, the focus is on the general principles that apply to all contracts. Meaning and scope of a contract. So, what exactly is a contract? According to Section 2H of the Indian Contract Act, a contract is an agreement enforceable by law. That means it's not just a promise, it must be legally binding. The Act applies to business contracts, employment agreements, service agreements, and even online transactions. However, it does not cover social promises. For example, if someone promises a friend to meet for coffee but doesn't show up, there is no legal obligation. Objectives of the Indian Contract Act. The Indian Contract Act serves several important purposes. Legal enforceability ensures agreements can be enforced in court. Protecting rights defines the rights and duties of parties. Preventing fraud protects against unfair practices. Business growth ensures trust in trade and commerce. Providing remedies offers solutions if contracts are breached. For instance, if a singer cancels a performance last minute, the event organizer can sue for losses. Essential elements of a valid contract. A valid contract must have certain essential elements. If any of these are missing, the contract may be void. 1. Offer and acceptance. A valid contract starts with an offer and its acceptance. If A offers to sell his phone for $20,000 and B accepts, it becomes a contract. 2. Intention to create legal obligation. A contract must have a legal intent. If two friends plan a trip but one cancels, it's not a contract. But if a company signs an employment agreement, it is legally binding. 3. Lawful consideration. A contract must involve something of value: money, goods, or services. If A promises B $5,000 for completing a project, the money is the consideration. Competency of parties. Both parties must be legally capable. They should be adults of sound mind and not disqualified by law. If a 16-year-old sells his bike, the contract is void. Hack 5. Free consent. Consent must be free, no coercion, fraud, or undue influence. If a person is forced to sell his property at gunpoint, the contract is voidable. 6. Lawful object. The contract's purpose must be legal. If A agrees to smuggle illegal goods for B, this contract is invalid. Certainty and possibility of performance. The terms must be clear and achievable. If A agrees to supply some quantity of rice, it's vague and not a contract. If X promises to bring a star from the sky, it's impossible and void. Conclusion and takeaway tips. A contract must have an offer, acceptance, consideration, legal intent, competent parties, free consent, a lawful object, and clear terms. Missing any of these can make the contract void. Tip of the day: always put contracts in writing to avoid disputes later. Verbal agreements are hard to prove in court. If this information was helpful, like, share, and subscribe for more legal insights.